Let's talk about Git and GitHub. As a developer, you need tools that are going to help you in managing the different versions of the projects that you're building. And you also need to collaborate with other people. Now, I want you to think of an application like Instagram. Instagram is an application that has a very large repository, and it has so many repositories actually. And there are thousands of developers who are working on such a project. Now, I want you to imagine a situation whereby all these developers are basically being able to manipulate the same repository of code at the same time. Every developer, every person working on the project, they have their own processes in terms of how they do things. They can be able to write code using different architectures and everything. And the problem with that is that a lot of the different things they are working on can conflict, especially if they're working on the same feature. Now imagine 1,000 people, all of them working on the like button. They'll be able to conflict in a lot of the things that they're doing, that they'll end up just messing the entire project. To try to prevent that, we need a tool that is going to help us and have all these developers work on the same project together. That is where Git comes in, and GitHub as well. How they work is you use Git to control the different versions that you have in your project. And I want you to think of you can think of the initial repository that you set. Let's say this is your initial repository, and this repository only contains a single file that is maybe index.html. If you go ahead and include another file, let's say you go ahead and add a file known as script.js, this now creates a new version. What you had initially was a different version, this is a new version. And it can even work in terms of the different things that you do, whether you add a comma to your project, add a new line to the line of code that you're working on. Those are all different versions, and you have to track who does what at a specific time, especially when you have such big repositories. That is where Git comes in, and it helps really well in handling all these different versions. And now GitHub, think of it as the cloud repository. I want you to think of GitHub as your Google Drive. You have the images that you have in your local machine or in your local device, and you back them up on your Google Drive or on any cloud service that you use. This is what GitHub is. You can even think of it as the extra hard drive that you're using to store your videos and everything else that you're working on. That is what GitHub. Now you need to be able to connect this to Git and GitHub. Once you've controlled the version on this and multiple people can work on these projects, then they can all push what you have to GitHub. Now the other interesting thing about this is that as much as there are, let's say 10 people, all of them working on the same project, each of these individuals have the same version of the repository. So any sort of changes that this person pushes to the main repository, this other person can be able to have access to the same change. And that is the good thing about Git. It uses a distributed system whereby everyone has access to what every other person also has access to. It's a lot more complex. There are more features to understand on this. But if you want to understand how Git and GitHub works, I have a course on GitHub that you can go ahead and do. It is a free course. Just to access it, I want you to go to my website. It's bonaugeto.io.